was a little bit of an addendum onto it, not quite as integrated, but now Tanuki is very much the trusted level. I'd love to see him play some Black Panther. We've got some crazy Black Panthers here in EMEA, and of course we're going to be getting rid of the EMEA Magneto front lines to begin with.
Does mean that at this rate Brbrpatapim should be able to sort of pick up the Magneto themselves if they want, but I think one thing to say about Enzo is he's an incredibly flexible tank. He will play all sorts of stuff to be an absolute pain for 0%. A lot of pressure for Isidore, who's going to be the one deciding these sort of bans, or at least leading them. Taking out the Loki as a second pick, which has probably been the most consistent answer, is just going to be that typical old-fashioned like Emma Frost versus Magneto. You can't have both, so you have to have one or the other.
Yep, you can choose one, but you can't have both. Luna Snow on the other side, very strong at the moment, even with the Ult Generation nerf, requiring more points to use that Fate of Both Worlds. Her neutral game is even stronger, with those Ice Shards doing slightly more after the buffs. So she's consistently going to be pushed out, is the real answer. Brbrpatapim, do they want to remove the Loki is the question. Of course, this is a one-sided ban. Ken is one of the best Lokis that we have, probably alongside, I believe, Aura Stealer. Might be the other best Loki that we have in EMEA at the moment, if we don't count like a Saipe being an absolute magnate of whatever hero is chosen.
Yeah, 0% looking to go a little bit more like brawly, knowing that the other team doesn't have Emma Frost. It means that Wolverine has a little bit more free reign. Beforehand, you'd see a lot of the Thing being picked up to try and deal with Wolverine, but he's just not the same character as he was a couple of months ago. So it means that Wolverine, outside of being countered by Emma Frost, pretty much has free reign. Here for supports as well, it's a good way for Brbrpatapim to get around this, because you do have the Luna Snow yourself, but you've not only banned it against your opponent, you've stopped them from getting Loki too.
Yeah, that's true. Like, surely you ban for Loki here for 0%. They do not want to go up against two Fates of Both Worlds.
They already have, so that's... It feels like you're just taking out some of the options, and Ultron is more of a question mark one. We haven't really seen him played at all so far on day one, but it means that you just take away that option to go for the sort of triple support stuff. Means that Ken and Alex a little bit more like uncomfortable with places. Sorry, actually it would be like Line Pro and Name are the ones that are sort of on the less than optimal characters.
Well, Line Pro, I feel like Line Pro's favorite character is Invisible Woman. Just there's so much playmaking potential with the force physics, with both the pulls and the pushes in order to impact a fight and kind of create the fight caricature that you want. We're going to Krakoa again, once again, first here for our domination matchup. Brbrpatapim, though, when you walk out of a draft with Luna, I can't help but feel that you've won.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've at least got one of the strong main tanks. I think it's weird, really, because you look at, like, this change to the map draft, and initially it was just like Human Torch, banned out instantly first time. But then I guess as time went on, people realized that, like, the problem with banning out DPS is that there's so many different options for duelists. There's only so many tanks, there's only so many supports, so if you can really hammer down a role, especially when they have good Vanguard and Strategist players, you could just make their life living hell if you're not careful.
Yeah, with those limited pulls, the bans become even more impactful. Oniro going to be going up against Pokey in the Salok versus Salok. When it comes time to prove yourself, this is going to be quite the trial of fire. And Tanuki's going to be up in the air. No second life available from that Adam team up, but still going to be proffering the Star-Lord and those Element Blasters.
Enzo Hulk as well. Like, you do have the Shadow Stage, it could be on you, but you're really just probably putting it on Tanuki, to be fair. He's going to be the one harassing, so Enzo has a lot of work to do to just keep himself topped up. A lot of focus is going to go on him naturally, and him and Tanuki diving in as coordinated as can be. Not getting a pick, but at least forcing out some of those bigger cooldowns and forcing 0% onto the back foot for the time being.
Enzo super low. Oh, Tanuki with a peel. Great. It's the meme in the church where there's just two people pointing guns at each other and there's a third one on the top. Tanuki now can just play the margins of this fight. Easy access to the back line. Breaks to the Guardian Shield. Line Pro coming in for a duel. But guess what? Enzo's playing around the back, and Pokey, if you forget about the Shinobi, she will just carve you asunder. Brbrpatapim explode into a first fight win.
Yeah, it worked out well. Like, Tanuki and Enzo weren't able to really do that much damage to begin with, and we saw Enzo having to sort of run away on low HP. But that's kind of his job, is to take some of that focus. I think maybe there was a bit of Nero just rushing in to try and get the kill, trying to capitalize off of it, but it just made him a right pick for Tanuki to pick up. He switched over to the Ultron, going for the Iron Man combination, but it does require triple support, and well, he was just shot out the sky by Pokey.
They had no idea that Pokey was there. Maybe stealthing up, using that psionic stealth power. And now how do you even disengage? Oh, look at this, they're playing like shepherds at the moment, and it's forcing out an eternal bond from Name to try and make this fight work. Pokey can actually spawn camp the return of the Nairo at the moment as well. Tanuki might come and try and join the Galactic Legend around the back. Easy access to his backline, sees multiple players hit by that vulnerable cloud of the cloak and dagger, and that's the Living Legend now popped by Isidore, trying to get everyone out of this small room, turn it around. The Nairo feeling super low, gives the imperative firewall, the invincible pulse cannon. It gets nothing in this case. Frost Mountain's given up all of our ultimate charge to find nothing in the return. And now with the invisible boundary drawn on up, Tanuki does not want to drag back into this. Instead goes back into the loving arms of their strategist. And as it goes on down, this is the moment for Tanuki to strike. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, and you better believe the 0% are allergic.
Oh, it was so close as well, because Tanuki, he got his ultimate so early with the Galactic Legend, and I think held on to it for so long. He didn't want to use it against the Invisible Boundary. The problem was Invisible Boundary wasn't available yet for Lion Pro, so there was that little window, and it did feel like that opportunity for Brbrpatapim to really take that fight was lost. But he was able to hold on for it so long, stay alive, get it going after the Invisible Boundary, and find those eliminations. Brbrpatapim looking to take this 100% to 0, and Isidore needs to be careful. He is leaping in, he's got his team over on the point, but it's just been split apart, and Pokey's finding the appropriate right kills at the right times.
Another day, another dive. An Nairo spotted out right now by Pokey. Maybe going to try and find some kind of clutch, but no. Enzo in the Monster Hulk form. The rage of the Gamma Monster is too much for a small shinobi to deal with. And Brbrpatapim walk away commandingly with map number 1.
Yeah, just a couple of moments there. It was very dominant when it came to the point. Not once taken by 0%, but there were a couple of fights that just felt it went a little bit awry, right? Just especially that first one, Isidore just gets caught out trying to... Anira, chasing out Enzo, gets picked off. Feels that every time 0% try to do stuff, you've just got those duelist players being able to find the picks of isolated targets. And it makes sense. Brbrpatapim have always been good at this game mode. It's the one that they've done the most damage to Virtus Pro on for the longest time. They're naturally going to be the favorites into this one.
Yeah, Brbrpatapim, they're kind of a team to watch right now. We were kind of expecting them to get picked up by an org heading into this for now. Still playing under Brbrpatapim, but every single match is quite the advertisement as we head over to the cradle of Cerebro. A big change over here. Lion Pro just uses the Jeff Bubbles to speed the team out and give them that advantage in early positioning.
Tanuki, these first couple of fights actually did look good for 0%. It really didn't feel like those divers could find the picks with just the amount of sustain that was coming through from the backlines. But as things get a little bit uncoordinated, you do have the freedom charge coming in from Isidore to sort of push the front line. But that just opens up the back, I suppose, for Pokey to find picks potentially.
Quite the force onto Alex coming through. Big vibes coming through from Isidore, but however, the Living Legend has expired. The staying power for 0% is going to be entirely dependent upon that eternal bond. Ken does their best to back away. Nice delivery of an indestructible guard from the Hulk when it's needed most. Tanuki, though, has found the backline once again, finding the moment where they're least defended. And Name's next up in their sight. The extended range on the Galactic Legend.
Wow.
Just grabs him out of the air with a Sentinel strike. And Frost Mountain invests for last stand just to put a cherry on this cupcake. Pokey's going to grab one on the way out, but should be staggered in their own right here as Legacy and Nairo combine for that frag.
A dance of the butterfly as well to just sit on a Lion Pro, not too far away from having an invisible boundary. It almost felt like a victory lap there from Tanuki. The invisible woman went down on the other side. You don't have that big ultimate. It's a big counter to yours. They pulled out the Galactic Legend and was just shut down from a shield in the sky. Isidore was the one that started off that fight as well with a freedom charge, halfway to having another ultimate to go with. And Enzo trying to find a pick and isolate people. 0% playing a lot closer together now they have the point.
And so use their indestructible guard right on the landing. Is good coordination here from Brbrpatapim. I believe that Name was actually exiled for a moment. Tanuki falling too low, only catches one slash from a Dance of Butterflies, but Vasana Katana, it just carves through Celestial Flesh so easily. Poké does their best to disengage. Isidor's going to be charging in here, has to be careful not to overextend, but manages to grab one with the Vibranium Energy Saw.
I mean, Isidor's just absolutely holding it down to see this much damage done by Captain America and just be constantly annoying that these sort of the front line of Brbrpatapim can't focus on anything else other than the main front tank that's just taking all of that attention. Another freedom charge available. It was a very far up engagement, but the teleport allows them to just get right back onto the point. Still having ultimates to work around, but not quite having an eternal bond just yet. Dance of the Butterflies on the horizon for Poké, so people want to stay grouped up and just hold on for this as much as possible. Freedom charge is going to do well as well.
Ready to disengage Poké, just making sure not to overstay their welcome here at the moment. For Living Legend is constantly pushing back these backliners, but Strategist under siege, and yeah, they're going to call in the backup, but Isidore can just so easily leave after moves have been made. Tanuki now under siege once again. Sentinel Strike after Sentinel Strike into the midst of all of this, and the damage has been piled up. That's going to allow for the Galactic Legend to come out at a moment's notice. For now, just going to hide behind the Cradle of Cerebro on the point to keep this one contested. He's going to be grabbed momentarily and slammed down to the ground. Frost Mountain with the last stand. Oh, while everyone's minds were distracted by EMEA, you forgot all about the Logan factor. Poly doing their best to try and make something work here with the Living Legend, and Poké can try and turn this one around as well. It's a Dance of a Butterflies grabbing one, then another, turning against their own people, yes, and turning the map in the favor of Brbrpatapim.
What a turnaround. It really did feel like once we saw an hero using their own Dance of the Butterflies, that was going to be the thing to cut it off. But Poké, even with so many players from 0% grouped up, just able to sort of cut through everybody there. Really nicely played, though, from Frost Mountain to sort of find a pick onto Tanuki. He was about to jump up a Galactic Legend, but he was just caught out. Isidore gets that final hit. Things have a good note about them for Patapim to be able to go through, but they have to pretty much do this in one foul swoop. 0% on 99. They just need one good fight.
Just work the margins for now. Force 0% into your area of expertise. Isidore starts running upon the back line. The strategists, yeah, they're under siege. Can anything be found in terms of final hits, though? Yeah, you better believe whenever Frost gets involved, things get a little bit more explosive. Already plenty of percentage made towards getting this one to flip on over. Enzo falling low, back down into puny banner form. Certainly, Tanuki flies up ahead with the Galactic Legend. That means that there's no one down on the ground to defend Enzo, and puny banner breaks under the shielding of the Captain America. A last second recontest coming through from the Doctor Strange. A portal in space-time has been opened, but you're gonna need more than manipulation of the time and space continuum to get past 0%, who bring it up 1-1.
You're going over to the carousel now. Good stuff. It feels that there is just that common thing that keeps happening with these like domination game modes. Whoever takes the point first tends to be the one finishing it out, even if it does exchange hands at this rate. But Isidore, the work that he's doing on this Captain America, not only just the harassment and the flat-out damage that he's doing, competing with a Nero on his team and outdoing Poly and Enzo, but it's like so much focus goes onto Lion Pro's little mind games with Tanuki's Galactic Legend, the invisible boundary. But the freedom charge just keeping people alive when the invisible boundary isn't available for that ultimate. It's just the damage mitigation full stop, and the amount of damage that he's doing means that he's getting that ultimate frequently enough that it is an absolute pain for Brbrpatapim to deal with.
Yeah, our generation is off the charts right now. Giving over those additional armor packs here is Isidore. Making sure there's additional survivability in this first fight, and it can be so necessary. I don't think there are any major changes right now, apart from Enzo going a lot more reserved. Magneto on the field now instead of the Hulk.
And Tanuki, Human Torch, trying to change it up to something that doesn't feel like it can just do consistent damage. It isn't looking for these like burst phases to get on through. Frost Mountain just trying to pick his fights. He does have that last stand and catching on to Enzo right up into the sky from the top ropes, pulling him into the backline. There's very little that can be done about it. Polly trying to mirror some of the success that the Captain America's having on their side, still feels that Brbrpatapim are not going to be able to take up the point first.
Oh, Frost Mountain gets one with the last stand. Plenty of healing now off the board. Everyone's kind of running on fumes at the moment. Damage could be permanent, and damage certainly going to be delivered here by the Dancer of Butterflies. Pokey gets Legacy, and just about escaping with their life here is Frost Mountain. Polly ready to charge down Isidore in their counterpart. This is going to be first cap for Brbrr.
Going to be any changes to 0%. Things moving over. Ultimates building. Fate of Both Worlds sat pretty. It's whether Legacy can get that ultimate to just silence things as they go through. Psionic Seduction, good to go. Eternal Bond as well. Feels it's going to be tough for Frost Mountain and Isidore to find that same success, because Tanuki is just chipping away damage from the heights that it's very hard to deal with.
Oh, Sonic Seduction already out, but Line Pro's nowhere to be seen when it comes to help. Those winged shurikens carve through the Invisible Woman, and there's so much staying power available here for Brbrpatapim while the Fate of Both Worlds is playing. The dance floor is full. They're playing my favorite song, and Polly is just going to be bringing their own notes of his symphony, rolling through with the living legend. Plenty of additional health for everyone. Even the burst can't break you through the healing that has been levied. Name under pressure. Polly chases them down, and Brbrpatapim, they're in full control of this fight.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like a good fight for 0% at all. They dedicate a lot of ultimates, and they still haven't made the progression on the board, so it's got past 50%, and they've used the likes of Freedom Charge, Eternal Bond. The fight was just continued after they lost Line Pro so early in it that they really just ended up leaning towards Patapim. They're going to be feeling really good about this fight. They have some good ultimates to boot and to work with, and 0% need to find it in.
Isidore's going to be looking to generate one of those. Playing the off angle with the Captain America. That constant threat that requires attention. You better believe that Tanuki is going to pay that attention. Actually, spots out Pokey. That could allow for an arrow to get an early grab. And Frost Mountain manages to get their friend so low as well. Legacy's already fallen down. You can't be losing your Emma Frost this early. The Eternal Bond added to the mix by Ken is plenty of additional damage. Realizing this is going to be final fight of the map. Potentially Tanuki pops out for Supernova. And the damage is going to be too much for Line Pro to take, chased down by Polly. 0% are running out of gas, running out of friends, running out of HP, and running out of time. And they're all out of chances too. This one's going to tick down in the overtime, and Brbrpatapim will take map 1.
I mean, it's hard work. You're playing up against one of the best domination teams in EMEA, but I think 0% are going to look back at that and think, like, we could have been more disciplined with... You go into some fights and then you sort of realize that the fight's not good, and you might have an opportunity to just try and disengage, cut your losses. But so many teams naturally go like, no, like we're over dedicated to a losing fight, and it just buys so much time for Brbrpatapim to just sort of take the point quite cleanly that they only end up having 3 fights in order to get it. But still, there's promise for the 0% team. Like, it's the first time that we've probably had a look at like Isidore and likes of Frost Mountain and Nero, and you could sort of see why Line Pro wanted to play with this squad. There's so much like promise there. It's just a little bit rough around the edges compared to the second best team in the region.
Wait, Isidore's kind of putting up numbers on the Captain America. 15k? Ooh.
Yeah.
A little bit spicy.
I mean, we were watching his POV, right? It was just like...
Bro was wailing on him. Bro was wailing on him. So we look at our highlights here. Tanuki popping off, of course, on the Star-Lord. How's fallen out of vogue a little bit compared to a couple of months previous, where it seems like Winter Soldier and Star-Lord have consistently been these superstar duelists who often dictate the flow of matches. We've seen more of a move towards Psylocke-based compositions, and Wolverine's also been having a little bit of a resurgence as well, despite the prevalence of Emma, who's a pretty effective Wolverine counter with that Carbon Crush.
Yeah, I think that, like, you could say like the balance changes and stuff, but also just like the pick ban phase change in the way that it has means that there is a lot more like freedom in those places. Sometimes it can be a bit confusing to sort of keep in mind and sort of track in places, but now the teams have got used to it, you could sort of start to see the ideas around what they want to try and aim for, what they want to keep on the board, what they definitely want to get off the board for their opponents here.
Yeah, you got to try and control the options for your opponent, but trying to control it from a duelist-centric POV is often incredibly difficult just because there's so much variety in that role. Your duelists, if you ban one out, like you're going up against Tanuki, bro's got such a wide pool. And happy to match on the Wolverine as well. Always willing to come out on the Winter Soldier. The Star-Lord's always in the back pocket. And you better believe it, that Black Panther. Like, the second that it's available, Tanuki is going to like, trust me, boys. One life on the Black Panther. Just one life on the Black Panther, bro.
He just wants a good go of it. I do, like, also admire, like, Brbrpatapim's, like, the hero changes they made for that third point. It felt like, okay, we're struggling with this. Like, we've changed up 4 different characters and really it looked like 0% was still trying to adjust to like, okay, how do we deal with this? Like Brbrpatapim, when they felt behind, when they felt a little bit countered with like the heroes that were on the board, made a very clean sweep to change up some of the stuff for that third point, and from there it was very, very clean on that final objective.
Yeah, cerebral gameplay coming through to make sure that you could always account for what was it like. They saw that Legacy was getting a lot of pressure onto Enzo on these deep dives from the Hulk. So instead they go, okay, we're going to play a little bit more conservatively. We're going to play the Magneto close to the team, and well, it made sure that there were far fewer of those openings for Isidore and Legacy to really capitalize on. We'll see if there's much adaptation coming through from our teams right after this break for map number 2. It's the marquee matchup of the day, gamers, and well, Brbrpatapim are already bringing the spice. 0% are on the back foot and being forced to adapt to a team that in this domination map managed to change their entire style to try and deal with a good backline response from 0%, hunting down their whole player of Enzo.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where this goes from here. We've seen a decent amount of Brbrpatapim in like third-party tournaments like Fight Night for 0%. We haven't seen him all that much, most certainly since the Ultron patch and all of these changes have come in. They've sort of kept their cards close to their chest, and probably ever since they've known the matchups of who's in their groups, might have been trying to avoid some of these opponents that they're playing up against. But Midtown, the convoy map, first convoy map of the day that we've actually seen, means that there's maybe some movement, I suppose, of the likes of like Storm and Human Torch with how high some of these like map pieces are to play around.
For those of you who haven't seen it yet, this is our advanced tournament ban system. In this ban system, unlike in your comp games, the bans you pick are only for the enemy team, so you can try and take away the strengths of the enemy and build yourself. Maybe you get to play Magneto and the other team doesn't. You can see on our red side there for Brbrpatapim, they banned away the Magneto from 0% and they saved it for themselves so that they are going to be able to play Magneto, and 0% are not. On the other side, 0%, they've banned away the Emma Frost, but they've protected it for themselves. So Brbrpatapim is not going to be able to match Emma Frost in the midst of all of this. Ordering can be super important, and also you don't want to give away your strategy too early. But in the current meta, both teams are going to be opting in generally, no matter what matchup we go for, to get rid of either Magneto or Emma to make sure that that Vanguard line cannot exist at the same time.
Yeah, like if you have Emma and Magneto and the other team don't, it feels so oppressive. So now you're just sort of looking for those instances of, like, for example, 0% being able to ban out Wolverine and pick it themselves mean that there's a certain angle that they want to go for. And Brbrpatapim banning out the Captain America because they see there was such a pain on it in that last game, it would make sense to.
Yeah, a little bit of a target there. Just make sure that Isidore cannot continue marauding in the backline. It's going to be once again a Lunar Snow gap as well here. I'm surprised that Luna Snow was allowed to get through as easily as she was. Once again, 0% are going to have to play without that. To be fair, it's not a massive nerf to 0%, considering that Line Pro does prefer to play the Invisible Woman in most circumstances, but you can't deny the raw power that Luna Snow brings to the table and the unfathomable value of her ultimate.
Oh, for sure. That's why Loki's so commonly banned out for both teams without being able to really pick him. But I'm looking at like the saves here, right? Like Magneto and Luna versus Emma Frost and Wolverine. Naturally, I'm leaning towards like the first option that I was going to say OG, but Brbrpatapim were able to pick up here. So this is also the map choice of 0%. After they lost, they also got to choose the side as well. So this is like where they're going to try to set up as best that they can. It's not the most common map. I think Spider Islands is probably the more go-to option, I think, for Convoy, but it's one that can often get overlooked, and it was very prevalent in the Invitational when we did see a lot of Storm being played, because the high ground is just very easy to sort of play around, like the buildings, and just be irritating, hard to take down.
The battle starts
Oh, early hold here coming through as well. That's a legitimate Penny Parker from Isidore. Just trying to spawn camp here and burn down the time bank as quickly as possible. I imagine Isidore will be swapping away from a Penny Parker after his first hold comes on through. But the thing is, you can contest the mission area from the doorway here. You don't have to give up too much, and you can use it for cover for players who are trying to escape the spawn as well. That's why you see Pokey moving through on the Moon Knight here, so that those who are in cover, just freely healing onto these Vanguards as they come on through, are still subject to the bounces of those Crescent darts. But Isidore goes out a touch too far, gets resurrected.
It means that everybody's still down. You just look at the chunks of damage that Frost Mountain and Legacy have been taking. It's a very early, like, amplify that's coming for Line Pro, but it really does highlight just the amount of healing that's required. Pokey bringing out the Moon Knight, showing that it's not just a one-off that we saw in the last series. Just that concentrated damage in a small space is very good at clearing out these kind of strategies that 0% have tried to employ.
Okay, this kind of a Team Peps-esque strategy for those of you who are EMEA heads, just instantly recontesting with a Strange Portal here, keeping up the pressure, keeping up the pace all the time, continuously just taxing this time bank that Brbrpatapim have. Tanuki, though, none of this nonsense is to be given over. Name taken out midway through their ultimate. The Eternal Bond unable to sustain them. Brutal play from Tanuki.
And he just goes back and switches.
I'm done.
Goes in, gets a 4K, leaves. Pretty much changes. You've also got Ken that's also playing up on the Squirrel Girl, has the ultimate, is 10-0. Your support player is just demolishing the strategy that 0% we're working with, to a point that it's just all of the weird picks from Brbrpatapim coming out at the perfect time. 0% need to move to plan B.
An unbeatable Squirrel Tsunami. It's a rarity in pro play, but it's going to be deployed nonetheless, and maybe it hasn't been adapted for very quickly here from 0%. I think it's been taken down, but while you look towards the Squirrels, you don't look towards the miniguns, and you better believe that Frank is packing quite the weapon collection. And now it's going to be a swap over onto what you'd consider more of a regular comp after using their ult bank.
Yeah, a bit of a weird moment. He's sort of blacked out and you're looking at Enzo playing a Punisher and then the Squirrel Girl, but after that first point, all of those little areas to play around, things should sort of settle down to something a little bit more common. Magneto versus Hulk is just really strong for the fact that you could just come in and jump in and have those shields to keep you alive and be out again. Line Pro moving over to Invisible Woman. Has an invisible boundary very early on. Gonna use it as the Dance of the Butterfly comes through, but with everybody grouped up, it barely does the damage, and the counter ultimate is going to be used on top.
Yeah, on the other side, not being inside the invisible boundary, the sharing out of damage simply means that both of the strategists will fall. And 0% finally have themselves a little bit of stability to work with here. Both teams running the Hulk, but of course only 0% have the team ups. They banned out the Wolverine from the opposing side, which means Frost Mountain essentially gets an extra berserk stage per fight when they get thrown at the enemy.
Now trying to jump in, he finds the perfect character to be able to dive on, but there's so much heal there that he's not able to get an elimination off the back of it. Does have the last stand, trying to find a good fight to go with, whilst the Worldbreaker Hulk is trying to dive in onto the back line to get some picks onto Brbrpatapim.
Tanuki, given that metallic bulwark, an attempt at a mid-air grab right there. And while there is an exile, it's not going to last for long. And it seems that Isidore is going to be reduced into a puny banner form. And now the Eternal Bond, still 0% belief that this one's winnable. Name thinks they can at least survive longer than they did last time against the Tanuki's Storm. Out comes the final stand. It drags multiple players out of the LOS of Alex. And while you may be dancing around happily, the rest of your team are not dancing to a happy tune.
Yeah, it was a good call from Name to pull out the ultimate there. It's something that we were worried about in that first map, of just the over-fighting in areas that it's lost. Now they're just trying to buy a bit more time, force Alex out of the engagement for the time being. It feels like bullying, because it is bullying. Brbrpatapim forced to wait 10 more seconds before they can go for another re-engage. And Line Pro has another ultimate to work with on the Invisible Woman.
Yeah, also that constant use of the Guardian Shield there as well to just continuously slow Alex. Polly already grabbed, is going to be pulled off of the target. Frost Mountain held at bay for but a moment. Deep into the backline goes Enzo. It's a good distraction, but I don't think the Exile manages to impact. Oniro manages to force out at least the invisible boundary, and Pokey's fallen elsewhere while attention was diverted to the backline by the Psylocke. Isidore free to brawl out here. You need to try and take out the Invisible Woman utilizing this Meteor M, but you can't find the target. You just throw out a speculative Meteorome into the midst of nowhere. Line Pro's going to have to fall alone, just trying to trade their life for seconds on the cart. And the same will have to be said of Isidore, as Oniro has no chance of escape.
Enzo clearing up people, trying to get a little bit more. It was a good fight for 0%. But a lot of time considering how badly that first area of the map went. So now just short of 90 seconds left on the clock. A very uncomfortable place to fight, but Brbrpatapim doing the right thing of just trying to take a little bit more space past the choke. Frost Mountain, wait to see an overextension to see if he can pull somebody away.
Does Tanuki save the Horn of Proteus until the fate of both worlds is available is the question. With that damage boost, it can be absolutely brutal, including onto a player who's inside of a Strategist Ultimate for that additional healing. Alex waiting to make the call. For now, just allowing things to go as they may. Look out for that purple aura coming through from the fate of both worlds. Damage boost onto a back. Name never stood a chance. Oneiro's going to have to stand alone, but Pokey will not let them sit in peace. Isidore instantly executed the moment they return to the puny banner form, and Brbrpatapim, despite their time back taking a bit of a hit, are going to complete second.
It's another case of Brbrpatapim being sort of stuck on a point, changing up their comp ever so slightly, like this name, or finding enough damage to sort of get on through. But Enzo has been really good at sort of getting past these backlines of 0% and catching people out. And even if you've got these like big combinations of ultimates, they're not the ones necessarily getting the elimination. You've got the Wolverine diving in to try and catch somebody. Can't quite get it for Frost Mountain.
Well, missing both of those Berserk states is going to be a little bit of an opening here where 0% don't have the Vanguard pressure that they'd otherwise like. And without that there, Pokey knows that it's time to try and make an insertion into the backline. Tanuki notes Oniro over on the other side. These squids are just such a complicating factor in the midst of all this, and you better believe that Oniro gets caught out by the Cephalopod Menace on the tail end of that.
Yeah, just a little bit extra CC makes it more difficult, I think, for Frost Mountain. Again, those instances, a couple of players go down, and that's when Legacy pulls out the Psionic Seduction, and it's just those big ultimates used in losing fights. Can't quite get it going, so Brbrpatapim moving things along. Isidore trying to just jump in over on the Hulk to dive in, and the Dance of the Butterfly is not really finding the picks. It's Line Products going down first in a lot of these engagements, and then Enzo's there to clean up house.
Polly grabbed though. Tanuki does get exiled, but the follow-up's not going to be there. Couldn't quite find the lead. Pokey once again, whenever it's necessary, Pokey always delivers a double. What a pickup for Brbrpatapim that Pokey and Polly were as a duo. The Royal Beamer's acquisition really served them well. Up the invisible boundary goes, and that means that Frost Mountain's got the staying power to sit on cart for now. He's going to start rolling on backwards, but Brbrpatapim can recontest with 3 ultimates.
Just holding on, just getting across the point might be enough. Dance the Butterflies, trying to isolate somebody to just do a little bit more damage to them, but it's jumped onto the Hunk that had the Hulk that's had that sustain to go through. I mean, it's a really nice skin, to be fair. But now for Tanuki, he's trying to sort of clean up to find these final eliminations, get anybody off the point and contesting into overtime. Honestly, for 0%, it's a good showing, even if it does sort of hit the end of this map, to just bring it all the way down to 0 on the clock. And they're still going for these fights. There's only 3 alive. Nami with the Eternal Bond just trying to get past all 6 people being alive for Brbrpatapim. It's just out the front door for this team that are spawning out of the Avengers Tower. It's going to be hard for Brbrpatapim to put this one to bed now.
Oh, maybe there's an opening though. Enzo goes a little bit deep here. Could be punished out, but no, Name's been found. Line Pros for next. Under siege. Over into a World Breaker Hulk, and you better believe the world of New York is quivering under the power he delivers. That's our controller goat right there. Enzo flicking the sticks.
I mean, just really well played from him from Hulk. I keep hearing like murmurings of like Hulk being used a lot more consistently by teams, but seen as a little bit of a misnomer that it's just some teams are doing it, but not everybody. We're seeing glimpses of those that really enjoy playing Hulk that were, you know, a part of Season 0 where it was very prevalent beforehand. You can sort of see that Enzo wants to be on these dive tanks. He played a lot of Venom at the Invitational, but now back to his roots, I think, with Hulk. And on a map like this, and you've got the harassment from Tanuki and Pokey coming through, it just makes his life so much easier.
Bro just wants to zoom, you know? And I feel like the Hulk brings so much to the table in the form of the Gamma Squid for Namor, because you're going up against a Wolverine and you're going up against another Hulk, and neither of those players really has a great way of dealing with the expanded HP pool of the Gamma Squid, nor can they really reach it in most cases. So that means that there's just even more essentially business admin that Nairo has to do before they can actually make their dive work.
I remember talking to Line Pro preparing for the Invitational and me being like, what's the matter? And he's like, I hate Namor and Luna Snow's like team up, like the slowing squids. And I almost forgot about it for a bit because it's been a while since we've like properly seen it used. But here it's again, Line Pro's probably seething at the fact that he has to deal with this again.
Yeah, the Gamma Squids are nasty. We thought the Plague had left us when they turned the Fetchel and Charisma team up. No. The Plague simply mutated.
Yeah, it's shuffled across slightly.
Tanuki under a lot of pressure here. Hold up. Nairo down to 5 HP, forced out the Blessing of the Deep. And Enzo just going to back off for now, giving over a little bit more space. The Legacy is a real danger that needs to be dealt with. Nairo has to back off, though. You cannot go up against all those squids. You just do not have the damage to burn through it all. Enzo uses the Indestructible Guard in order to get access to that back line, start punching away. But guess what? The mission area is still moving. Legacy desperately needs some help here. I believe gets a bubble coming through from the side of the Hulk, and plenty of healing going to be offered as well.
Polly's taking a lot of damage, but there's so many like shields to just keep people up and going for the most part when you've got the Hulk involved in play and the Invisible Woman. Invisible Boundary for Ken, ready to go, but just holding on to see if he can bait anything else out. And there it is. Eternal Bond is going to be the first thing that's used in this engagement, and things are starting to follow. Getting out these defensive ultimates means that the Meteor M up in the sky, able to find Frost Mountain just as he was able to get the ultimate online too. And in a brawly fight like this, that could have been the difference.
However, Alex has been taken down, didn't get to use their ultimates. It is going to have to be a recontest here with the fate of both worlds. Will someone be able to make a move to contest this point, however? They don't have all the time in the world to actually get onto there. Maybe Pokey goes for a double dash. You can't... Okay, yeah, Alex is on point. And it's going to be Enzo sitting here with the World Breaker Hulk. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of damage taken, but that's all right. Early force on the fate of both worlds. And Frost Mountain's down again. Just constantly the main target of the ultimates from the side of Brbrpatapim. They do not want to have to deal with the Kraken impact today.
Legacy trying to run out as much as possible and get more shields, more healing, but that's not stopping Pokey from just piling on the pressure, at least farming up towards another Dance of the Butterfly. It was looking like 0% were able to sort of take that first point, but here they're sort of stuck. Pokey up on the high ground, not really being acknowledged up until this point. Psychic Seduction from Legacy going to be used, but Tanuki, it's a great Horn of Proteus to just take everything down. No damage boost needed from Alex. It was just enough with the right damage in the right spot.
No damage boost needed. Yeah, I think Ken might have used the force physics to push Frost Mountain into the center of that Horn of Proteus. That's rancid gaming.
Big stuff. I just love it. You've got Enzo now just hugging up on the high ground to dive in. Just how irritating Brbrpatapim have been with all of these like characters being able to dive in. It's not quite as meta as it used to be, but it's still strong and prevalent. Eternal Bond trying to be aggressive, forcing out Invisible Boundary from Ken. Meteor M, it's such a good ultimate to pull out when you've got people not playing in the Invisible Boundary. But yet again, we're seeing a Venn diagram right on the objective this time with less than a minute left. Line Pro, it's the only ultimate that 0% had at this point, but Frost Mountain's the one that's actually able to find the eliminations and finally for 0% get past this first checkpoint.
Oh, Frost Mountain just being able to stay alive through a fight long enough to get some value out of a Rotterdam, you know? It feels like Frost Mountain is often that first target for Brbrpatapim, and they're generally getting their man when they try and make that play. But for 0%, this was by no means a cheap fight. They've expended their entire ultimate bank just to extend their time bank here, but it had to be worth it. Brbrpatapim, now they get to defend an even more defensible area.
You see Legacy trying to play past this choke point where I think 0% did a really good job of holding it on their defense. They don't want to get stuck in the same spot, but they might not really get the option with a fight as clean as this from Tanuki to Dance the Butterflies as well from Pokey. This DPS line, we've not seen much from Pokey so far in like previous history of Marvel Rivals. Now you're starting to see why this Brbrpatapim wanted to pick him and Polly up.
Yeah, Pokey was on a all-Norwegian roster, I believe. called Royal Beamers. They did, I think, top 4, maybe top 6 MRC, and Pokey definitely was scouted off the back of that one. Oh, what a great exile coming on through. This might force the blessing of the deep, but guess what? It's so difficult to try and deal with those squids. Someone else has got to try and do the admin, and while it's going to be continuously taxed on this high ground from Isidore, they are going to lose their hold form for it. Down into the banner, out comes the Dance of the Butterflies, but it's easily answered by the fate of both worlds. Quick damage,
Line Pro
just on the periphery, gets one tap by the damage boosted Horn of Proteus. Never stood a chance. A mid-air potentially coming in through here. Meteor M on to the Magneto. Doesn't quite hit pay dirt. It's going to be affected with the culling debuff. If they can get him low enough, it's going to be a reset. But Polly simply
got out
himself with the metallic bulwark, and that means no resets.
He just Homer Simpsoned into the hedge of that fight. He just held back and nobody really bothered with him at this point. Now Enzo, World Breaker, not really enough. It's just going to be brought down to Bruce Banner. And with all of that, 0% still able to win the fight. I think it was a good engagement from Legacy and Line Pro. Going out early in the fight, once he came back, had the invincible boundary. Here it's just keeping things going. It's just on the precipice constantly for 0%. Just a couple more percent and they might be able to take this map back.
A Dance of the Butterflies ready to go. Actually uses multiple of their cooldowns to try and disengage here. Big grab coming through onto Polly. The invisible boundaries used just try and save the Magneto, who needs your Vanguard during all of these fights, and so they are going to be that priority heal. Coming through from the back, Pokey ready to go. It's been a wild play from a portal in the midst of all of this, and they're going to try and use it to escape, and now popping back out of it once again. And Iroh thinks it's winnable, but there's only Vanguards here, and now they're stuck in the enemy spawn. Oh, the pranks of the portal. It's a Sorceress Sundry that appears to have flummoxed them.
It was just so chaotic, but that just seems to really lean towards Brbrpatapim. You got to Dance of the Butterflies, you got a player jumping through the portal to safety, but then the damage isn't shared out, and that's when you lose some of your supports from 0%. Just like every man for themselves attitude is costing them here, and now it's just one final fight trying to go through onto the portal to touch the objective, but it's uncomfortable. Eternal Bond has to be used to just get them in, really, to try to take on a fight themselves. The payload is right on the edge, though. It looks like Brbrpatapim might have jumped off of it for just long enough for 0% to take it, but no, Tanuki's still going.
Floats above it all unbothered. Enzo uses the Dark Maelstrom to rack the souls of 0% with dark energies. And despite a spirited defense from 0%, they just do not have what it takes to break the underground station. It's a solid hold from Brbrpatapim, and they come out as strong as we were expecting in our marquee matchup of the day.
Yeah, I think we were like hoping for a full best of 3 series in this one, but it is like a hard matchup. Line Pro said to me like it couldn't have been harder realistically when it comes to some of the teams that they play up against. Naturally, there's one that springs to mind, but Brbrpatapim, they're very well practiced. We've seen a lot of them play. They're not afraid to sort of reveal some of the ideas that they've been trying in other third-party tournaments. But 0%, it's a young team. It's sort of a ragtag group put together. Having somebody like Line Pro really seal it to give that experience. Just some of the fights going slightly wrong, and Ultimate being 5 seconds too early, being 5 seconds too late, the wrong target prioritization, the wrong fights to engage on or disengage on. It's just that lack of being able to deal with the chaos that Brbrpatapim was able to excel on.
Yeah, Brbrpatapim also managing to find like so many frags, so many final hits onto the duelists of 0%. We saw very high deaths, both from Frost Mountain and from Oniro. And I've got to assume that that's down to Brbrpatapim and just being able to consistently find like 2v1s. They're hitting their controlling elements like the Absolute Zero from Lunar Frost, or they're getting their Enzo Gamma Spit to lock down someone out of to exile someone from the fight for a little bit until they're ready to try and make an execution play.
Yeah,
and that really has created so many openings in these fights where there's a lot more space to work with. Those duelists aren't peppering you.
Yeah, there's an old adage that I like from like other games when it comes to like tanks, supports, DPS. If the tank dies, it's the support's fault. If the support dies, it's the tank's fault. If the DPS die, it's their fault. So maybe that's like the best way to sort of look at it there.
I could certainly see a little bit of a blame game going on. I think that 0% at least are a team that are generally going to be fairly immune to tilt. They got Big Brother in Line Pro ready to go in the midst of all this. So I feel like they're going to be one of the teams that reacts better to any losses in this tournament and be able to bounce back and not really tilt too much off the back of kind of being transferred by Brbrpatapim, especially when this was fairly expected.
Yeah, I think so. Like, this is about as close as you could possibly get, I think. And so it's just finding those, like, narrow margins because, you know, against other teams that aren't Brbrpatapim Virtus Pro, can I see this 0% team winning? Absolutely. Like, they looked really good in a lot of places. It's just they don't have the same level as reps, frankly, as the two top teams that have been playing since well before Season 0, Season -1 with, like, the closed beta tournaments and stuff. Like, it's just reps I think that these like young players need, and Line Pro can sort of coax them through it, but at the end of the day they need to just get the games under their belt.
Yeah, sometimes experience is king, and like you said, 0%, they have had a considerable rebuild since the Fnatic days that Line Pro had before, and scouting all this new talent. It takes a while to take like raw talent and mold it into a professional player. There's more to winning in the tournament server than just coming in and aiming good or making a good decision, having a good ult here and there. You need to be able to read your opponents super well. You need to be very much in tune with what the rest of your team are doing, and once 0% really dot their I's and cross their T's there, we could see them be able to bring it to a team like Brbrpatapim, who are like Brbrpatapim are kind of just like a frag power juggernaut. Like, they've got very good fight planning, but I feel like the real strength of Brbrpatapim is that every gamer on this roster is happy to go for a 1v1 no matter what. Like, they're like yard win. Every single one of them.
Like, there's so many like instances in like all sorts of games where like there's good fights that you can take, there's bad fights that you can take, but you can still like play well in a bad fight and win, or you can like lose in a good fight and you're still like, that was still a good effort from us, we just got unlucky, or we didn't expect this and that. It feels like Brbrpatapim could just make anything a good fight, and that's hard to play up against. If you're 0%, you're trying to play a little bit more disciplined and have that structure, and you still lose those fights. That's where a lot of players could be like, well, what do we do instead, right? What are our options? And that's what some of those fights felt like a little bit, 0%.
All right, let's have a chat to the controller god himself, Enzo, on the line for our post-match interview with our winner. It feels like it's been forever since we got to talk to you, Enzo. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's been a while now, 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months, a whole new team, new teammates. I guess I just want the lore from you. How did Brbrpatapim happen?
Basically, after MRC, we chose to change a bit of our roster by just keeping the core, which is us four, Tanuki, me, Alex, and Ken. And we found the perfect duo that was matching with us. Poki and Polly were two really good ranked players that was playing in some teams, and they were like really good. So we say, okay, we're gonna try with them. And we find out that they are like so fucking good at the game mechanically.
Naughty it.
The
scouting there.
I mean, when it comes to like, because the game is so early as well, that like learning heroes seems like easier to do now than it would do in like 3 or 4 years time when there's a few more, right? Like, what was it about Poki and Polly that enticed you into them? Was it like their attitude? Was it their playstyle? Like, from not knowing them that much and certainly not playing with them, what is it that does to bring to the table that made them so interesting for you to pick up?
We wanted to play with people that grind a lot, that plays the game 24/7, and that are ready to learn any character at any time and put all their life in this game, because that's what we're doing. Like, we want to make this game a living, so we're putting all the energy we have, and we find out that Poki and Polly were the perfect people for that. They are really good mechanically, and they're spending all their time on the game by being top rank. So that's most of the reason we picked them instead of anyone.
Since we last spoke, the tournament infrastructure itself has changed considerably. We're running an advanced ban format right now. How do you guys feel like you're coping with a changeover to these advanced bans?
I think the new system is really good for us because we can play every character in the game basically. We can play most of the new, like everything. We can pull up BP, we can pull up Hulk, we can pull up Cap, we can pull up Venom, we can pull up everything that is in the game, we can play them. So the fact that there's this ban, well, it's open to like multiple drafts compared to before. Before there was only 2 bans, 1 save. You are kind of forced to play Groot and Bucky, and that's it. So I think this is really good for us, and I really enjoyed this system.
I think that was something that we said as well, like for Krakoa, that you'd lost the second point, and then the third point you changed up like 4 of your characters to sort of try and counter what Aceto was doing on the Captain America and stuff. Like, how do you get good at that kind of stuff? Like, it was almost like, okay, we know what we need to switch to. And even like we saw at the start of Midtown, you see the Penny Parker setup, and it's like, okay, you're gonna go on Punisher, the Squirrel Girl Ken. It's such a weird thing to do, but it almost felt that you were instantly all on the same page of like, okay, yeah, we're just gonna do this. Like, how did you get to that point where you're pulling out crazy stuff like that?
On Midtown is something that we know people do. People always like do this thing in defense because it's really hard to hold the first half of the point. So people usually do this comp, and we know that going into the spam is like the key. It's basically the key. We know we're gonna spam and they're gonna die, because the whole point of doing that is stalling time from us. So we just know. And we tried a couple stuff, and I say, okay, let me try the Punisher. We see if it's good or not. And it worked really well. I was feeling like a Fortnite player for once. Shotgun 200 pump everyone.
Well, you looked bloody good on it, Enzo. It's nice to see even more of your controller prowess on different characters. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the win. We're looking forward to seeing you run deeper into this bracket.
Yeah, we're ready to fight Schmungus tomorrow and show a lot more than we showed today. I think we're like a really fun team to watch, and I'm really excited to show everyone what we learned.
Right, that's what we're expecting. Cinema.
The Black Panther duel is going to be legendary. That was Brbrpatapim going up against 0%, a 2-0 victory. And, well, it was very impressive. Brbrpatapim with some mid-stage adaptations as well, going over on Krakoa. We saw a little bit of a struggle in map number 2. And straight away, we had our... We're just going to leave Enzo up on screen, you know. Bro's having a good time.
Beautiful guy.
Giving me time to read the French food safety instructions, which are incredibly important.
Why does his bedroom look like a doctor's office, is what I was going to say. Like, that's the only thing that I could think of, because his bed was like one of the things that you sit on when they like take your blood and stuff. Like, it's very clinical, like his gameplay.
You're a wild guy for saying that, Ryan, but it had to be said. We've got brackets to check out as well as we figure out how it's going in Group B at the moment. As Enzo alluded to, Schmungus are going to be their next match coming up later on in the week. But first off, we've got to figure out what else is happening in our bracket. Zero